Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
As the Grand Rock followed behind the demonic Lotus Blade sect elder, his wings that were like clouds that covered the sky flapped abruptly. Swoosh! Instantly, the Grand Rock passed the elder, whistling through the air as he plunged downwards, and everywhere he passed causing sounds of air exploding to continuously rise and fall. Duan Ling Tian was able to notice that the demonic Lotus Blade sect elder was swept away by the strong winds caused by the Grand Rock's wings, and he was in an extremely sorry state. Elder Peng wouldn't have done it intentionally, right? Duan Ling Tian glanced at the Grand Rock beneath him as he thought in his heart. The Grand Rock sent Duan Ling Tian's group to an empty piece of land before nodded to Linghu Jin Hong. Then he unfolded his wings and flew up into the sky, concealing himself within the sky and vanishing behind the clouds and mist. Whoosh! Meanwhile, the demonic Lotus Blade sect elder had finally descended nearby to Duan Ling Tian's group. Even though he was taught a lesson by the Grand Rock, the demonic Lotus Blade sect elder only dared be furious, but not voice it out, and he slightly respectfully lead their group that was led by Linghu Jin Hong into the gorge within the gorge. This is the inner gorge of the demonic Lotus Blade sect, and is similar to the main peak, Dubhe Peak, of our 7-star sword sect. It's the location of the spirit points in the demonic Lotus Blade sect, and the higher-ups and inner court disciples of the demonic Lotus Blade sect usually cultivate here. Zheng Fan introduced the place to Duan Ling Tian and the others of the younger generations. They walked all the way into the inner gorge. The scene before Duan Ling Tian abruptly became brighter. He could see some buildings standing at various locations, and even saw quite a few demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples continuously flowing within them. Some of the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples that noticed their group couldn't help but stop and look. It's members of the 7-star sword sect? It ought to be. Those 4 young men are wearing the 7-star sword sect's inner court disciples attire. That young man looks to only be 21 or 22. He wouldn't be participating in the martial competition this time as well, right? It's impossible. Being able to become a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple at such a young age, he can already be considered to be of outstanding natural talent. But if he wants to participate in the martial competition, then he's still too green. Indeed, so long as one is a disciple of the 5 great sects and is not above 30 years old, then one may participate in the martial competition of the 5 great sections. There's no lack of existences at the 4th or 5th level of the nascent soul stage amongst the participants. Just like our demonic Lotus Blade sect's senior brother Long Yun, who is ranked number 5 amongst the 5 great young masters. Now, his cultivation is only a step away from breaking through to the 7th level of the origin core stage. This 7-star sword sect inner court disciple probably came with his seniors to join to watch the battles. Under the lead of the demonic Lotus Blade sect elder, Duan Ling Tian's group walked all the way towards the inner parts of the gorge. Everywhere they passed, they could clearly head the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples whispering in discussion. Saber young master, Long Yun. He hasn't broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage? A bright light flashed within Duan Ling Tian's eyes. The gaze of the demonic Lotus Blade sect elder that led the way had descended onto Duan Ling Tian repeatedly, as he was rather surprised that Duan Ling Tian was able to become a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple at such an age. Sect leader Linghu. Looks like a young genius has appeared in your sect again. The demonic Lotus Blade sect elder said to Linghu Jin Hong, yet his words were noncommittal. As far as he was concerned, although being able to become a 7-star sword sect inner court disciple at such an age wasn't bad, but in terms of natural talent, it wasn't worth mentioning when compared with his demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, Long Yun. After all, their demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, Long Yun, had stepped into the 7th level of the origin core stage at the age of 20 and became an inner court disciple. As far as he was concerned, this young man would at most be in existence at the 7th or 8th level of the origin core stage. You have a good eye? Linghu Jin Hong replied indifferently. Disdain arose in the heart of the elder when he heard Linghu Jin Hong, but he didn't show it on the surface. Before long, the elder had brought Duan Ling Tian's group to arrive within the central building in the inner gorge, and the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples here had become scarce. You come here. The demonic Lotus Blade sect elder called out to one of the passing disciples, then instructed indifferently. You, take the 4 young geniuses of the 7-star sword sect to the martial competition courtyard. As he spoke, he looked at Duan Ling Tian, Zheng Song, Huang Ji, and Meng Qiu. Yes. The demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples hurriedly replied respectfully. Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 didn't leave, and they all looked at the sect leader, Linghu Jinhong. Presently, all the young geniuses of the 4 great sects, including our demonic Lotus Blade sect, are already waiting in the martial competition courtyard. All of you can go over and rest first. A while later, the higher-ups of the 5 great sects will go over together and announce the beginning of the martial competition. The demonic Lotus Blade sect elder lightly smiled to Duan Ling Tian's group of 4, then looked at Linghu Jinhong as he made a gesture with his hand. Sect leader Linghu, Peak Masters, our sect leader has been awaiting your arrival for a long time. Please. Go. Linghu Jinhong nodded to Duan Ling Tian's group of 4. Then he followed the demonic Lotus Blade sect elder to leave with Zheng Fan and Ku Zhan. After they obtained the permission of Linghu Jinhong, Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 followed behind the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples and headed towards another direction. On the way, Duan Ling Tian found out from Zheng Song. Not only was there a martial competition courtyard established within the inner gorge of the demonic Lotus Blade sect, even their 7-star sword sect's Dubhe Peak had one. The martial competition courtyard was a place especially prepared for the martial competition of the 5 great sections. The martial competition was held every 3 years, and each of the 5 great sects took turns to host it, and every sect would have a turn after every 18 years. This time, it was the demonic Lotus Blade sect's turn. Through the introduction from Zheng Song, Duan Ling Tian obtained a certain level of understanding of the other 3 sects within the 5 great sections. The other 3 great sects were respectively the Origin Convergence sect, Mountain Split sect, and Snow Moon sect. In next to no time, the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple brought Duan Ling Tian's group into a spacious courtyard. After they entered the courtyard, a spacious, even ground entered their eyes where numerous pergolas were established in the surroundings. Presently, there were people within 4 of the pergolas. The people that sat within were all young people, and the oldest wasn't above 30 years of age. These people are the disciples of the other 4 great sects that are participating in the martial competition. Duan Ling Tian casually swept these people with his gaze as he said to himself, "Senior brothers, all of you can choose any pergola to have a short rest, and the martial competition will begin once the sect leader and the others arrive." The demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple told Duan Ling Tian's group before directly leaving. Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 walked over to a nearby pergola. The people of the 7-star sword sect have arrived. In next to no time, some people with sharp eyes had noticed Duan Ling Tian's group of 4. Looks like the 7-star sword sect has really declined. One of their 4 spots is actually occupied by a little kid that seems to be a little over 20. Someone couldn't refrain from sighing. Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 sat down within the pergola, and there were already pre-prepared refreshments and tea within it. Duan Ling Tian's gaze flashed past the other 4 pergolas one by one. He noticed that within every pergola sat 4 young people who wore uniform attire. There was one pergola which actually had a young woman sitting within. Most shocking of all was the 3 young men by the young woman's side seemed to be slightly reverent towards the young woman, and this caused Duan Ling Tian to be unable to help from being stunned. That's the Snow Moon sect's genius disciple, Lu Yu, who's also one of the figures within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's younger generation that possesses a natural talent that is only inferior to the 5 great young masters. Even though she's a woman, if it came to a battle, she wasn't inferior to a man in the slightest, and she's an extremely dangerous figure. Zheng Song noticed the direction of Duan Ling Tian's gaze, and he explained in a low voice. Duan Ling Tian nodded. This Lu Yu was around 27 or 28 years old, and although her appearance was ordinary, her strength was shocking. 6th level of the nascent soul stage. She's a woman, but she's actually stronger than the 7-star sword sect leader's personal disciple, Huang Ji. Presently, Duan Ling Tian was able to understand Linghu Jinhong's feelings. If the seven-star sword sect continued on like this, then it would sooner or later be destroyed in the hands of the younger generation. That's the saber young master, Long Yun. Along with Zheng Song speaking, Duan Ling Tian's gaze shot into the distance. Within a pergola in the distance, a young man around the age of 26 who held a sheathed broad saber in his embrace silently sat there with his eyes closed, seeming to turn a deaf ear to everything in his surroundings. The three young men by his side didn't even dare take a heavy breath, as they were extremely afraid they would disturb the former. Saber young master, Long Yun? Duan Ling Tian nodded. Relying on his acute spiritual force and the lifetime worth of experience from the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian was able to determine the exact cultivation of this saber young master. Only half a step away from breaking through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage, this saber young master seems to have encountered a bottleneck that's difficult to charge through. With a single glance, Duan Ling Tian was able to discern the saber young master's level of cultivation. Within the martial competition this time, the saber young master, Long Yun, and Lu Yu are the strongest. Zheng Song continued. Strongest? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. Isn't there another one of the 5 great young masters that is from one of the 5 great sects? Hasn't that person come? Zheng Song smiled as he said, Junior brother Duan Ling Tian, there's something you do not know. The person you spoke of is the person that's ranked 4th amongst the 5 great young masters, and people call him Sword Young Master. This Sword Young Master is a weirdo amongst weirdos. What do you mean? Duan Ling Tian became interested. The Sword Young Master is from the Origin Convergence sect, and he's fond of romance. Allegedly, since that Sword Young Master left the Origin Convergence sect 2 years ago, he's been unwilling to leave the largest cabaret in the Imperial City all day long. He was never able to recover after this and shut himself away from the world. Truly, as the saying goes, a hero cannot defeat his love for women. When Zheng Song introduced the Sword Young Master, he had a strange expression on his face. This Sword Young Master is truly a genuine person. Duan Ling Tian laughed, as he could perceive the Sword Young Master's unrestrained disposition. Right, since he's from the Origin Convergence sect, could it be that the people from the Origin Convergence sect didn't care about him? The people from the Origin Convergence sect were unable to care about him. Zheng Song shook his head and laughed. At the beginning, a few elders of the Origin Convergence sect wanted to capture him back to the sect, but as a result he directly said, if all of you dare to F****king touch this young master, then I'll F****king tell the whole world that I've separated myself from the Origin Convergence sect from today onwards. For a time, the Origin Convergence sect's elders were completely helpless. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but smile when he heard Zheng Song. This Sword Young Master is really special. Of course, Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that the reason the Sword Young Master was able to frighten the Origin Convergence sect's elders was because of the status he possessed. If it was another ordinary Origin Convergence sect's disciple, the disciple would have probably been directly expelled from the sect, let alone making a few elders personally go over to invite the disciple back. As one of the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, that Sword Young Master is actually such a scoundrel. He's truly thrown all the face of our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's younger generation. Meng Xiu, who sat nearby, heard what Zheng Song said as well, and he grunted coldly, seeming to detest Sword Young Master's behavior. Duan Ling Tian glanced at Meng Xiu indifferently, as he didn't agree with Meng Xiu's views. As fat as he was concerned, one lived in the world only hoping to have no regrets in one's heart. Although he didn't know the Sword Young Master and had never met him, the Sword Young Master's genuineness still caused him to feel heartfelt admiration. Meng Xiu has caused trouble. When Meng Xiu had just finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian noticed that within the nearby pergola, the 4 young men heard Meng Xiu's voice that wasn't intentionally suppressed, and their faces all went grim. In next to no time, a thin young man amongst them took large strides to leave the pergola and stand on the spacious level ground. For a moment, besides the Sword Young Master, Long Yun, who still held his saber in his arms and sat there with his eyes closed, The gazes of everyone in the martial competition courtyard descended onto the young man. What does this origin convergence sect disciple want to do? Many people wondered in their hearts. Right at this moment, Duan Ling Tian was able to discern that the gaze of the origin convergence sect disciple had swept towards the pergola he was in, then finally descended onto Meng Qiu. Senior Brother Chun is the person I admire the most in my life. This person from the Seven-Star Sword sect, you dare speak ill of Senior Brother Chun. I presume your strength ought to be not bad. Now, although the martial competition hasn't begun, we instead can have a warm-up battle. What do you think? The origin convergence sect disciple said indifferently to Meng Qiu, and his words didn't lack the intention to provoke. Umph. Did you think I would be afraid of you? When faced with the challenge from the origin convergence sect disciple, Meng Qiu wasn't afraid in the slightest, and his figure flashed out to stand in confrontation with the origin convergence sect disciple. The sword young master is surnamed Chun? Duan Ling Tian's brows raised, and he looked at the two people that were in confrontation with interest. Besides the saber young master, Long Yun, the other people were like Duan Ling Tian and were silently watching the scene before them. Suddenly, the origin convergence sect disciple moved. Whoosh! His entire body seemed to transform into a bolt of lightning that flashed straight out. On his right hand, along with the surging and roaring of his origin energy, his spirit weapon gloves flickered with a dazzling luster. Whoosh! The origin convergence sect disciple's palm descended down, condensing 3 material palm prints in the air that whistled as they descended, enveloping towards Meng Qiu. Above him, beside the 600 ancient mammoth silhouettes, another 170 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared. This origin convergence sect disciple was obviously a 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist, and as for the glove on his hand, was a grade 7 spirit weapon. His palm strike contained a strength that was comparably to the strength of 770 ancient mammoths. Bring it on! Meng Qiu shouted out explosively, then stomped his feet on the ground before transforming into a gust of wind as he moved to intercept the attack. Swoosh! Meng Qiu's hand jerked, and a grade 7 spirit sword appeared in his hand. The grade 7 spirit sword flashed out, transforming into sword images that covered the sky before moving over like flying flowers and falling leaves to intercept the palm print. Above him, 770 ancient mammoth silhouettes had appeared as well. Meng Qiu was a 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist as well. Their strengths are evenly matched. Many people exclaimed in surprise. In the blink of an eye, the origin convergence sect disciple had met Meng Qiu head-on. The 3 material palm prints whistled as they descended, smashing against the sword images in Meng Qiu's hand. Bang! The collision of 2 terrifying energies caused a shapeless force to extend out, shocking the air to the point that a circle of ripples undulated. Then it transformed into a gust of wind that blew towards the people watching the battle in the surrounding pergolas. Swoosh! 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 The origin convergence sect disciple's speed was on par with Meng Qiu, and they passed by each other and smashed attacks against each other for multiple times. Tied. On the flat ground, dust and dirt that covered the sky suffused into the air and practically fully covered the figures of the two people. Whoosh! 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 The sounds of palm winds whistling out rose and fell. Whoosh! 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 The swift and sharp whistle of a sword followed the sound of the palm like a shadow. They're probably unable to decide on a victor. Duan Ling Tian's gaze never left the surroundings of the two people in battle since the beginning. Relying on his acute spiritual force, he was able to perceive that in terms of strength, they were both on par, and in terms of speed, they were similarly on par. Now, even the exhaustion of their origin energy was almost exactly similar. This battle went on for half an hour, but a victor was still unable to be decided. This caused the people watching the battle to lose their patience. End it with a tie? There's no meaning in continuing. Exactly, the strength and speed of both of you are on par, and there isn't any disparity between the live combat experience and martial skill utilization of the two of you. Continuing will only expend your origin energy and affect the martial competition later on. Why don't the two of you stop? Many people persuaded with good intentions. Kid, I'll let you off this time. But if you dare talk bad about senior brother Chun, then even if I have to take you down with me, I would still kill you. The Origin Convergence sect disciple's figure flashed to the side, then coldly glanced at Meng Qiu. You can even throw away your life for the sake of Chun Xiao Shui, who's infatuated with romance. Meng Qiu's expression was extremely unsightly, as he didn't doubt what the Origin Convergence sect disciple said. If this Origin Convergence sect disciple really wanted to take him down with himself, then he would indeed be unable to escape death. No matter what senior brother Chen has changed into, I only know that he saved my life once. So long as he needs it, I can return my life to him at any time. Coldness appeared in the eyes of the Origin Convergence sect, and his words were filled with killing intent. The people present were all able to feel the resoluteness of this Origin Convergence sect disciple. Madman, Meng Qiu couldn't help but scold, yet he didn't dare say another bad thing about the sword young master, Qin Xiao Shui. If he said another bad thing about the sword young master, Meng Qiu didn't doubt it in the slightest that this Origin Convergence sect disciple would put his life on the line and once again charge at Meng Qiu. The Origin Convergence sect was a total madman. Duan Ling Tian's eyes revealed a sense of admiration as he looked at the Origin Convergence sect disciple return to his pergola. This Origin Convergence sect knew how to be grateful and to return a kindness. He was a good man. Subsequently, many people left the pergolas and stepped onto the spacious, even ground at the center of the martial competition courtyard and sparred with each other. Duan Ling Tian lazily ate the refreshments, and after watching a few battles, he was slightly drowsy. This 7-star sword sect junior brother, how about you spar with me? Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian heard a sharp voice sound out by his ear, and he just raised his head when he saw a young man with a wretched appearance and skinny figure standing nearby as he smiled at Duan Ling Tian. The young man's gaze contained a slight intent to mock mixed within. Get even using me? Me? Duan Ling Tian came to a sudden understanding. So it turned out that this person was bashed 3 times. Then when he saw Duan Ling Tian's age, he thought Duan Ling Tian was easy to bully, so he wanted to get even using Duan Ling Tian and vent his resentment. Want to vent your resentment on me? Duan Ling Tian corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled into an unnoticeable smile that was indifferent. What? This 7-star sword sect junior brother, you wouldn't be scared of sparring with me, right? The mountain split sect disciple with a wretched appearance stared at Duan Ling Tian, and his face revealed a wisp of ridicule. Looks like the disciples of the 7-star sword sect are nothing much. You actually don't dare to spar with me, truly disappointing. If it was up to me, your 7-star sword sect's disciples better go back from where you came. You'll only make a fool of yourself by staying here. The #1 sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? Bah. As he finished speaking, the mountain split sect disciple even insulted the 7-star sword sect. Right when Duan Ling Tian's gaze went slightly cold, and he was intending to agree to the spar. Laughable. Zheng Song suddenly stood up, then looked at the mountain split sect disciple and ridiculed. Since you said our 7-star sword sect disciples are nothing much, then how about fighting me another time? Although they were both 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artists, Zheng Song was already half a step into the 5th level of the nascent soul stage. There were very few 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artists that were a match for him. The mountain split sect disciple's face sank when he saw Zheng Song interfering. Zheng Song. Right at this moment, a sudden voice entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. I think what this mountain split sect junior brother said is reasonable. Since we've come here today, then we have to fight for the honor of our 7-star sword sect. You've defeated this mountain split sect junior brother earlier, and have obtained honor for our 7-star sword sect. It's respectable. Now, this mountain split sect junior brother challenged Duan Ling Tian. Then we naturally should allow Duan Ling Tian to have a match with him, and uphold the dignity of our 7-star sword sect. Duan Ling Tian, do you think what I said is correct? The person who spoke now was no one else. It was precisely the personal disciples of Linghu Jin Hong, Huang Ji. It was Huang Ji who, since half a month ago, after Linghu Jin Hong bestowed the Jade Origin Fruit to Duan Ling Tian, had taken Duan Ling Tian to be an eyesore. Huang Ji Yu. Zheng Song's face went grim, and under his extreme rage, he pointed at Huang Ji and said angrily, "Are you a disciple of our seven-star sword sect or not? Helping outsiders to bully the junior brother of your own sect. If people didn't know any better, they would think you're a disciple of the Mountain Split sect." Huang Ji said indifferently, "Zheng Song, what you said has gone too far. I'm only stating a fact. Meng Qiu, what do you think?" "I agree with what Huang Ji said." Meng Qiu nodded, and when his gaze swept past Duan Ling Tian, there was a cold light within it. Huang Ji and Meng Qiu sung the same tune and pushed Duan Ling Tian onto the chopping block. When what they said entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears, it caused his face so slightly sink and the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. He was completely clear of what these two people had in mind. It was none other than wanting him to make a fool of himself in public. Earlier, on the way while they still hadn't arrived at the demonic Lotus Blade sect, Duan Ling Tian had noticed the hostility they held towards him. This hostilities was mostly born from the combination of envy and hate. In the past, although Duan Ling Tian had noticed the combination of hatred and jealousy that Huang Ji and Meng Qiu had towards him, he didn't care much. As the common saying goes, one who doesn't encounter envy is a mediocre person. Possessing someone's envy undoubtedly showed that he had some merits. This was a good thing. But now, Huang Ji and Meng Qiu pushing him onto the chopping block while in the presence of outsiders had instead caused boundless rage to arise at the bottom of his heart. You too." Huang Ji and Meng Qiu singing the same tune caused Zheng Song's expression to be extremely unsightly. Never had Zheng Song expected that Huang Ji and Meng Qiu would actually make things difficult for Duan Ling Tian like this. "Junior brother Duan Ling Tian, you don't have to care about them." Zheng Dong looked at Duan Ling Tian and advised. Duan Ling Tian. When the Mountain Split sect disciple heart Huang Ji and Meng Qiu, he was already beaming, and now when he heard what Zheng Song said to Duan Ling Tian, his gaze of ridicule descended onto Duan Ling Tian. This seven-star sword sect disciple's name is really not bad. Ling Tian, soaring above the heavens, domineering enough. But unfortunately, you don't deserve your name, and at most you're only a PU***y. According to how I see it, you should just change your name. You can be called Kneeling Ling, one in the future, what do you think?" The wretched face of the Mountain Split sect disciple revealed a ridiculing smile, and he looking at Duan Ling Tian with a mocking gaze since the beginning until now, as if he was mocking an ant. Kneeling Ling? This name isn't bad. In next to no time, someone seconded. Ha ha ha. Many people roared in laughter, and the gazes they shot at Duan Ling Tian were filled with mocking and ridicule. Duan Ling Tian, you wouldn't really be willing to allow him to change your name, right? Huang Ji looked at Duan Ling Tian and ridiculed. Perhaps Duan Ling Tian likes this name. Meng Qiu started laughing brilliantly. You two are the personal disciples of our seven-star sword sect's peak master and sect leader at any rate. But you actually help outsiders bully and humiliate the junior brother from our own sect? You two want to allow outsiders to see our seven-star sword sect make a fool of ourselves. Zheng Song looked at Huang Ji and Meng Qiu and was angry to the point his figure lightly trembled. He was completely infuriated. Allow outsiders to see us make a fool of ourselves? Huang Ji glanced at Zheng Song indifferently. Zheng Song, open your eyes and look clearly. Who is making a fool of our seven-star sword sect now? The junior brother of the Mountain Split sect sincerely invited Duan Ling Tian for a spar, but this Duan Ling Tian actually doesn't even have the courage to accept the battle. He's truly thrown the face of our seven-star sword sect. He has allowed outsiders to sneer at our seven-star sword sect. It's only a spar. Not accepting the challenge is going a little too far. What? Duan Ling Tian, you still want to maintain your invincible legend in the seven-star sword sect? Meng Qiu looked at Duan Ling Tian, and his eyes contained traces of mocking. Invincible legend. When Duan Ling Tian was at the seven-star sword sect, he rarely suffered a loss before anyone. Especially the few times he ascended the life and death arena, he always killed his opponent as swiftly as a clap of thunder, and his imposing manner was like a rainbow, and his reputation spread throughout the seven-star sword sect. In the seven-star sword sect, Many seven-star sword sect disciples that had nothing better to do gave Duan Ling Tian the nickname Invincible Legend. In their eyes, Duan Ling Tian was an invincible legend. Invincible legend? Him. Meng Qiu's voice wasn't soft, allowing the mountain split sect's disciple to clearly hear it. And he couldn't help but laugh as he looked at Duan Ling Tian, then finally held his stomach as he roared with laughter. I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. My stomach hurts from laughing. It hurts so much. Invincible legend? For a time, the nickname given to Duan Ling Tian by the seven-star sword sect disciples was well known by everyone in the martial competition courtyard. Looks like there really is no one left in the seven-star sword sect. A little kid like this was able to be publicly acknowledged as an invincible legend. Seven-star sword sect has truly declined. In another few tens of years, the first sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom might not be the seven-star sword sect anymore, and would instead be our Origin Convergence sect. Our Origin Convergence sect has a figure that's amongst the 5 great young masters, Sword Young Master. Our demonic Lotus Blade sect's senior brother Long Yun is also one of the 5 great young masters, and he will surely lead our demonic Lotus Blade sect to replace the seven-star sword sect in the future and become the #1 sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. In next to no time, the disciples from the demonic Lotus Blade sect and the Origin Convergence sect had started arguing. They only shut their mouths when they saw something flash before their eyes, noticing that there was another figure on the spacious, even ground. Presently, near the mountain split sect disciple stood a young man. This young man was precisely the youngest person amongst everyone present here. The seven-star sword sect inner court disciple, Duan Ling Tian. This seven-star sword sect disciple is going to accept the challenge. He's simply courting a beating. Although the strength of this mountain split sect disciple is average, he's a 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist at any rate. How could he be something a little kid could deal with? It's showtime. For a time, the gazes of some people from every pergola descended onto Duan Ling Tian. The gazes of these people mostly contained a mocking expression mixed within. He didn't think that Duan Ling Tian would be able to be a match for this mountain split sect disciple. After all, Duan Ling Tian's age was truly too young, to the extent that it was shocking. Within the pergola, Huang Ji and Meng Qiu glanced at each other, then beamed. They seemed to have already seen the scene of Duan Ling Tian being defeated and humiliated. Only Zheng Song glared at Huang Ji and Meng Qiu, then looked at Duan Ling Tian with a worried expression as he hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian, if you're unable to carry on, then admit defeat. After you admit defeat, if he doesn't stop, then I'll make a move. Zheng Song's concern caused Duan Ling Tian's heart to feel warm, and he replied with a voice transmission. Don't worry, senior brother Zheng Song. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at the mountain split sect disciple that stood in confrontation with him, and said with a terrifyingly calm voice, Mountain split sect disciple, right? I, Duan Ling Tian, the inner court disciple of the seven-star sword sect, seem to have never refused your challenge from the beginning, right? All that crap you said earlier came out rather smoothly from your mouth. Were you expressing your lowly sense of existence? It was fine when Duan Ling Tian didn't speak, but the moment he did, every word struck the heart. It caused the mountain split sect disciple to be angered to the point his face flushed red, and he almost howled. Kid, I'll kill you. Instantly, 600 lifelike ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above him, and were accumulating force as they waited to be deployed. 4th-level nascent soul stage. Kill me. Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed, and he had a carefree expression. If you want to kill me, then it would depend on if you have the ability. When the spectators saw Duan Ling Tian still daring to provoke the mountain split sect disciple like that while facing him, they felt their scalps go numb. This seven-star sword sect disciple is actually enraging the mountain split sect disciple. Is he courting death? It was impossible for him to be a match for the mountain split sect disciple in the first place. Enraging the mountain split sect disciple a step further now is truly not a wise move. Today he's probably going to suffer. The spectating disciples of the various sects seemed to have already seen the scene of Duan Ling Tian being completely devastated by the Mountain Split sect disciple. Right when the Mountain Split sect disciple howled, as the origin energy on his body skyrocketed, and he was about to attack. Little fellows, all of you seem to be rather happily making noise. A dignified and gentle voice accompanied by a wave of footsteps sounded out from outside the martial competition courtyard. Sect leader. Instantly, within the pergola that was occupied by the demonic Lotus Blade sect, besides the saber young master, Long Yun, remaining unfazed, the gazes of the other three disciples lit up as they stood up and bowed. The demonic Lotus Blade sect's sect leader? Duan Ling Tian glanced over. Right at this moment, a robust figure walked into the martial competition courtyard with large strides. This was a man with a curly beard that wore a red robe. His tiger-like eyebrows emitted a dignified aura, and below his tiger-like brows, his eyes flickered within a sheen of wisdom that was completely different to his outwards appearance. Duan Ling Tian was able to discern that this demonic Lotus Blade sect's sect master wasn't simple. This was a scheming person and was absolutely not someone an ordinary boorish fellow could compare to. When we participated in the martial competition that year, wasn't it the same? The seniors hadn't arrived when we'd already sparred with each other. Another middle-aged man walked in slowly. This middle-aged man was dressed like a scholar, and incomparably modesty and gentleness was contained between his brows. Sect leader. The 4 Snow Moon sect disciples respectfully bowed to the middle-aged scholar. The identity of the middle-aged scholar was extremely obvious. The sect leader of the Snow Moon sect. I remember that I participated in the martial competition together with sect leader Linghu that year. At that time, sect leader Linghu struck everyone with a single sword strike and was awe-inspiring, causing all the disciples of our 4 great sects to not be a match for him. Under Duan Ling Tian's gaze, a middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance to the point he couldn't be found once tossed in a crowd of people, walked in shoulder to shoulder with Linghu Jinhong. Sect leader. Including the Mountain Split sect disciple that was in confrontation with Duan Ling Tian, the other 3 Mountain Split sect disciples all respectfully bowed to the middle-aged man. This middle-aged man was precisely the sect leader of the Mountain Split sect. It's all matters of the past. Linghu Jinhong lightly smiled. Then he parted ways with the sect leader of the Mountain Split sect, and they each walked into an unused pergola. Sect leader. The 7-star sword sects Huangji, Meng Xiao, and Zheng Song all respectfully bowed to Linghu Jinhong. Exactly. I was there that year as well, and the elegant demeanor of sect leader Linghu was indeed breathtaking. A dignified middle-aged man with a strong body followed to enter after Linghu Jinhong and the Mountain Split sect's sect leader. Sect leader. The 4 Origin Convergence sect disciples respectfully bowed. Subsequently, a thinly scattered group of 10 walked in with large strides. It was precisely the elders of the 5 great sections. 2 elders had come from every sect, and they sat beside their respective sect leaders. I've heard of sect leaders' elegant demeanor from that year as well. But unfortunately, I'm a few years older than sect leader Linghu, and I had no luck in encountering sect leader Linghu in the martial competition. The demonic Lotus Blade sect's sect leader who sat within the pergola laughed heartily. Suddenly, the sect leader of Snow Moon sect's surprised gaze descended onto Duan Ling Tian. Presently, Duan Ling Tian stood at the center of the martial competition courtyard, and his young appearance seemed to be especially dazzling. Presently, it wasn't only the Snow Moon sect's sect leader. Even the gazes of the sect leaders of the other 3 great sects were all drawn by Duan Ling Tian. Only because Duan Ling Tian was truly too dazzling. Sect leader Linghu. This young man is also a disciple of your 7-star sword sect that's participating in the martial competition this time. The Origin Convergence sect's leader glanced at the 7-star sword sect inner court disciples' attire on Duan Ling Tian and asked Linghu Jinhong with a surprised expression on his face. Sect leader Linghu. This disciple of your 7-star sword sect seems to only be 21 or 22 years old, right? The demonic Lotus Blade sects and Mountain Split sects sect leaders looked at Linghu Jinhong as well. He's 22 this year. Linghu Jinhong lightly smiled as he nodded, and seeing that Duan Ling Tian was in confrontation with this mountain split sect's disciple, he was slightly puzzled as he asked, Duan Ling Tian, you two are intending to spar? Yes, sect leader. Duan Ling Tian replied. Then his gaze descended onto the mountain split sect disciple, and a faintly discernible smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. This mountain split sect senior brother said I'm not worthy of the name Duan Ling Tian, and wants to give me a new name. What name? Ling Hu Jin Hong was stunned, and he vaguely noticed that the atmosphere was slightly off. Let him explain himself. Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at the mountain split sect disciple, and a cold light flashed deep within his gaze. The mountain split sect disciple wasn't afraid in the slightest as he said coldly, Exactly. I want to change the name of this kid that doesn't know how high the sky is and how thick the earth is. You're not worthy of possessing the name Duan Ling Tian. You will be called Kneeling Ling in the future. Kneeling Ling? The mountain split sect disciple had only just finished speaking when Ling Hu Jinhong's expression froze, and he frowned. This mountain split sect disciple had really gone too far. Even if it was he who was only an outsider to the matter, rage couldn't help but arise within his heart when he heard the humiliating words of this mountain split sect disciples, let alone Duan Ling Tian, who was the concerned party. At this moment, flames of rage would surely be violently rising within him. The expressions of Zheng Fan and Ke Zhun, who sat by Ling Hu Jinhong's side, were unsightly as well. The mountain split sect leader frowned, but in the end, he didn't say anything. The current 7-star sword sect wasn't the past 7-star sword sect any longer. Without any outstanding new blood, the 7-star sword sect would sooner or later be surpassed and replaced by their 4 great sects. The trace of fear that had just arisen within his heart was all gone. The gazes of the sect leaders of the other 3 great sects descended onto Duan Ling Tian and were filled with interest. They were able to sense the heavy atmosphere in the current scene. If you want to help change my name, then it will depend on if you have the qualifications. Duan Ling Tian's expression was calm as always, but the coldness in the depths of his eyes were practically at an extent they were difficult to restrain and would surge out at any moment. I'll let you know if I have the qualifications or not really soon. The mountain split sect disciple grinned complacently, not taking what Duan Ling Tian said seriously in the slightest. As for the composure Duan Ling Tian displayed currently, he noticed it, yet only thought that Duan Ling Tian was intentionally trying to mislead him. Then I'll wait and see. Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted, and he emitted battle intent that charged into the sky. Fight! Presently, the sect leaders of the 5 great sects had no intention of stopping the conflict between Duan Ling Tian and the mountain split sect disciple. Today was the day of the martial competition at any rate. The content of the martial competition was mutual sparring between the disciples of the 5 great sects, a battle for supremacy. In the end, the strongest 3 would be decided, and they would obtain the prizes from the 5 great sections. Haha, all right. The mountain split sect disciple glanced at this sect leader, and when he noticed the latter nodded at him with encouragement, his gaze descended onto Duan Ling Tian once again. Then he laughed loudly as his eyes emitted a slightly vicious intention. Whem! Suddenly, a grade 7 spirit saber appeared out of thin air within the hands of the mountain split sect disciple, and origin energy suffused and raged atop it. Instantly, 768 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above the mountain split sect disciple. Swoosh! The mountain split sect disciple's figure flashed out, as if he'd transformed into a cheetah that pounced towards Duan Ling Tian, and the grade 7 spirit saber in his hand seemed to have transformed into the bloody mouth of a cheetah that fiercely bit at Duan Ling Tian. Whem! The grade 7 spirit saber of the mountain split sect disciple carried with it the force to split open a mountain, and wind was gradually born everywhere he passed, as if he wanted to directly split Duan Ling Tian into half. Humph! When faced with the mountain split sect disciple that was approaching menacingly, Duan Ling Tian's gaze went slightly cold and the corners of his mouth curled into an expression of ridicule. In an instant, Duan Ling Tian flashed out as well. Whirlwind. In a flash, Duan Ling Tian seemed to have transformed into a gale that moved up to meet the mountain split sect disciple in battle. Of course, he didn't utilize his wind force. This mountain split sect disciple didn't possess the qualifications to make him utilize his biggest trump card. Whoosh. At the same time that Duan Ling Tian dashed out, 600 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared out of thin air, and they followed him to surge forward in the air. Fourth level nascent soul stage. At almost the exact instant that Duan Ling Tian dashed out, numerous similar exclamations of surprise echoed within the martial competition courtyard. Crush. The sect leader of the seven-star sword sect, Linghu Jin Hong's hand trembled, and the teacup in his hand was smashed within his grasp, yet he seemed to have not noticed it in the slightest as he stared blankly at the scene before his eyes. Duan Ling Tian, fourth level nascent soul stage? How is this possible? If he didn't see it with his own two eyes, Linghu Jin Hong would find it difficult to believe that this was all true. What's going on? When did Duan Ling Tian break through to the fourth level of the nascent soul stage? Earlier, before Duan Ling Tian and the mountain split sect's disciples started the battle, he'd already planned in his heart that if Duan Ling Tian wasn't a match for the mountain split sect disciple, then once Duan Ling Tian was in mortal danger, he would make a move and save Duan Ling Tian at the first possible moment. As far as he was concerned, Duan Ling Tian was the future of the seven-star sword sect, and the loss of Duan Ling Tian was not allowed. But the scene before him had completely exceeded his expectations. Duan Ling Tian was actually a fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist, and it was difficult to believe. This little fellow really deeply concealed his cultivation. Zheng Fan, who sat beside Linghu Jin Hong, shook his head as he smiled bitterly. Although he was slightly surprised, he wasn't so shocked. As far as he was concerned, no matter what miracle were to happen on Duan Ling Tian, it was nothing worthy of surprise. Duan Ling Tian had always been a miracle himself. Duan Ling Tian is only at the age of 22, but his cultivation is at the fourth level of the nascent soul stage. Such natural talent completely surpasses the most outstanding 5 great young masters of the current younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Ku Zhen was shocked as well. He was the seven-star sword sect's Fecta Peaks master, and had heard of Duan Ling Tian since a long time ago. He'd known of Duan Ling Tian's existence since Duan Ling Tian killed the Fecta Peak disciple, Xiao Ying, on the Fecta Peak's life and death arena. Later on, Duan Ling Tian's road to rising to fame had caused him to be inexplicably shocked. Duan Ling Tian's rise allowed him to see a light of hope for the seven-star sword sect's future. At that time, he'd firmly believed that so long as Duan Ling Tian was present, then the seven-star sword sect would surely be able to continue its brilliance in the future. Now, Duan Ling Tian had given him another pleasant surprise. I originally thought that this little fellow was only at the second level of the nascent soul stage now, but I never expected that he's instead at the fourth level of the nascent soul stage. Ku Zhen smiled bitterly, and at the same time, he was also delighted. No, impossible. At almost the exact same time, within the nearby pergola, the pupils of Huang Ji and Meng Qiu constricted as their hearts surged with emotions, and they were unwilling to believe that everything before their eyes was true. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian. Zheng Song's pupils similarly constricted as well, but his heart was filled with the joy of excitement. His heart that was in his throat had finally come back down. He believed that with the ability Duan Ling Tian had displayed in the past, since Duan Ling Tian was a fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist now, defeating another fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist was no difficult matter. Fourth-level nascent soul stage. The surprised people weren't only the group from the seven-star sword sect. The people from the other 4 great sects, from their sect leader and elders to the disciples, were all dumbstruck. His natural talent surpassed the 5 great young masters. The Snow Moon sect's Lu Yu, the only female disciple from the 5 great sects that was present here, shot her incomparably complicated gaze at Duan Ling Tian, a 22-year-old fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist. In terms of natural talent, it was sufficient to easily devastate all the 5 great young masters. At this moment, Even the saber young master, Long Yun, who'd always had his eyes closed as he sat there without the slightest movement, had opened his eyes in a rare moment. There seemed to be a ball of flame jumping about within Long Yun's eyes. Presently, his gaze just happened to have descended onto Duan Ling Tian. Such a young fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist? Interesting, interesting. Long Yun's brows raised and the corners of his mouth curled into an indistinct arc, and it was difficult to perceive what his feelings were at this moment. The reactions of everyone present were practically stirred up the instant Duan Ling Tian made his move. Right when all the spectators were feeling incomparably shocked towards the strength Duan Ling Tian revealed, Duan Ling Tian's opponent, the Mountain Split Sect disciple, was dumbstruck as well. He's at the fourth level of the nascent soul stage as well? How could this be possible? Although he was unwilling to believe this, when he saw the speed Duan Ling Tian charged at him wasn't inferior to his own, he didn't dare dally in the slightest as the origin energy on the grade 7 spirit saber in his hand skyrocketed before it whistled out and descended. This saber strike carried the might to split a mountain, desiring to chop Duan Ling Tian into half. He didn't hold back in the slightest. At this moment, even if he wanted to hold back, he wouldn't be able to. Duan Ling Tian was a fourth-level nascent soul stage martial artist just like him, and if he were to hold back, then the loser would surely be him. The might of your saber isn't bad, but unfortunately, your saber skill hasn't reached a high level. An indifferent voice sounded out from Duan Ling Tian's mouth, causing the expression of the Mountain Split Sect disciple to become gloomy, and he revealed an extremely fierce sheen in his eyes as the grade 7 spirit saber in his hand fiercely descended. Die! You're overestimating yourself. The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled into a sneer, and he even couldn't be bothered to utilize his grade 6 spirit sword and only casually withdrew a grade 7 spirit sword of low quality. Sword drawing arts. The sword was like a bolt of lightning as it flashed out directly. In terms of speed, the sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand was much faster than the saber in the Mountain Split Sect disciple's hand. The sword drawing arts stressed upon extreme speeds. Amongst the martial skills under the heavens, only speed is undefeatable. Duan Ling Tian had always deeply believed this. Swoosh! The sword strike that was swift to the limit intercepted the saber in the hands of the Mountain Split Sect disciple. At this moment, another 168 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside the 600 ancient mammoth silhouettes above Duan Ling Tian. The strength of 768 ancient mammoths versus the strength of 768 ancient mammoths. No one knew that all this was done intentionally by Duan Ling Tian. He only used a grade 7 spirit sword of inferior quality that provided an amplification that was similar to the grade 7 spirit saber in the hands of the Mountain Split Sect disciple, as he didn't want to have an advantage in terms of spirit weapon. He wanted his opponent to accept the loss wholeheartedly and completely terrorize the Mountain Split Sect disciple with his might. After experiencing 2 lifetimes, Duan Ling Tian knew very well that killing a person was easy, but wanting someone to be completely afraid of you and not dare give rise to any thought of going against you was an extremely difficult task. Presently, what Duan Ling Tian wanted to do was the latter. Duan Ling Tian wanted to make the Mountain Split Sect disciple completely afraid of him and be terrified whenever they met. Wham! Swoosh! The saber strike that carried that force to split a mountain and the sword strike that was like a flashing bolt of lightning met with each other. Head on. Clang. The ear-piercing sound of iron colliding echoed out, accompanying the collision of 2 vast origin energies. Instantly, the collision of origin energy affected the air, forming ring after ring of ripples that spread out. The dust and dirt all over the ground swept out and suffused into the air. At this moment, besides the few people from the 7-Star Sword sect, everyone from the other sects, including the sect leaders and elders, couldn't help but hold their breaths. They wanted to know who would be the final victor of this head-on collision. In their hearts, they were sided towards that Mountain Split Sect disciple. After all, the martial skills cultivated by Mountain Split Sect disciples mostly leaned towards raw strength. Amongst the disciples of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's 5 great sects, disciples of the Mountain Split Sect were second to none in terms of brute force. Allegedly, 1,000 years ago, the founding ancestor of the Mountain Split sect was in existence at the void interpretation stage that possessed freakish strength. Relying only on his extremely strong strength, he was able to slash a vast and continuous mountain range in half with a single slash, and that gorge that was split open with immense force was the current location of the Mountain Split sect. That place was originally a spirit point that was buried under a vast mountain range that was noticed by the founding ancestor of the Mountain Split sect and was unearthed from then onwards. It was precisely because of this that the sect passed down by that void interpretation stage expert was named the Mountain Split sect. Clang. The ear-piercing sound seemed as if it still resounded by the ears of everyone present in the martial competition courtyard. Kid die. The Mountain Split sect disciple let out an explosive shout abruptly. The veins on his forehead bulged, and the origin energy on the Grade 7 Sprit Saber skyrocketed, wishing to dominate the Grade 7 Spirit Sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand. Wanna kill me? First ask yourself if you have the ability. Duan Ling Tian had a calm expression when faced with the Mountain Split sect disciple that had gone berserk, and he seemed to not care in the slightest, staying incomparably composed. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian's gaze went slightly cold, and the corners of his mouth curled into an evil smile. Not good. The evil smile that appeared on the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth just happened to be noticed by the Mountain Split sect disciple. Although he didn't know why Duan Ling Tian would reveal such a smile at this moment, he unconsciously perceived that he ought to take the initiative and retreat. But if he were to retreat just like this, then wouldn't he seem inferior to this 7-star sword sect disciple in the eyes of the others? Right when the Mountain Split sect disciple didn't know what to choose in his heart. Quake energy. The origin energy on the Grade 7 Spirit Sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand abruptly vibrated with a frequency that became higher and higher. The terrifying quake energy flowed out from the Grade 7 Spirit Sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand and poured into the Mountain Split sect disciple's Grade 7 Spirit Saber, without reservation and in full fury. Instantly, the Mountain Split sect disciple went pale. He could clearly feel the vibrating that came from the sword of this 7-star sword sect disciple before him, and as time passed, this vibration caused his palm to go numb. Even his internal organs and entire body seemed to start vibrating with it. Let go. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian shouted out explosively. Right at this moment, the Mountain Split sect disciple whose palm had split open and was dripping blood let go of his spirit saber at the right moment. The instant he let go of the spirit saber, he could feel the vibrating of his body stop. At this moment, he had the pleasant sensation as if he'd put down the saber in his hand and achieved ascension. But he hadn't even carefully savored this pleasant sensation when he felt a strong wind assault his face, and the wind carried a shocking might of lightning. No, the Mountain Split sect disciple only had time to shout out explosively. Duan Ling Tian used his quake energy to dodge the spirit saber the Mountain Split sect disciple had tossed away, and the spirit sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand abruptly shook before flashing directly towards the Mountain Split sect disciple. Spare his life. Right at this moment, the voice transmission of Linghu Jinhong sounded out in Duan Ling Tian's ears. At this moment, besides the people from the 7-star sword sect, there was probably no one that was clear-headed. The others were all dumbstruck by the words "let go" that Duan Ling Tian shouted out earlier. In the eyes of these people, along with the explosive shout of the 7-star sword sect disciple, that Mountain Split sect disciple actually really let go and tossed away the Grade 7 spirit saber in his hand. This scene was so strange and unbelievable to them. It was difficult for them to imagine what had happened earlier. Demon. This thought suddenly emerged within the hearts of many disciples of the 5 great sects, and the gazes they shot at Duan Ling Tian were filled with fear. Shouting out, "Let go," explosively, and he's able to make his opponent abandon their weapon? What ability is this? It's too strange. Of course, there were always many attentive people that noticed the palm of the Mountain Split sect disciple that had split open and was dripping with blood. Swoosh. An ear-piercing howl of the wind seemed to be exceptionally clear within the silent martial competition courtyard. Slap. At the critical juncture, the spirit sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand twisted from sword edge to sword body, and fiercely slapped onto the mountain split sect disciple's body. Under the blast of this enormous force, the internal organs of the latter shook, and at the same time that he flew out, he repeatedly spat out a few mouthfuls of blood before finally fiercely plunging to the ground. Whereas at this exact instant, whirlwind, Duan Ling Tian flashed out. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a gale as he arrived at the place the mountain split sect disciple would land in advance. Swoosh. When he saw the mountain split sect disciple descended, Duan Ling Tian swept his leg out, precisely hitting the knee of the disciple. Kacha! Ah! The clear sound of bones fracturing and his miserable shrill cry practically sounded out at the same time, and was incomparably ear-piercing, causing everyone present to feel a chill run down their spines. Bang! Finally, the mountain split sect disciple emitted a shrill cry as he fell, and he just happened to kneel before Duan Ling Tian. His features were warped and hideous out of extreme pain. Presumptuous. The sect leader of Mountain Split Sect had finally recovered from his shock, and his expression went grim as he stood up abruptly, desiring to flash towards Duan Ling Tian. Sect leader Tong. At practically the exact same instant, Linghu Jinhong glanced indifferently at the sect leader of Mountain Peak Sect. I presume you heard clearly what your Mountain Split Sect disciple said to Duan Ling Tian before the battle. Let the juniors deal with their own issues. How about it? The Mountain Split sect leader was speechless. Only now did he recall that before his Mountain Split sect disciple battled this abnormal disciple of the Seven-Star Sword sect, he seemed to have wantonly humiliated his opponent, and he even threatened to change his opponent's name to Kneeling Ling. He realized that he wasn't in the right, so he could only suppress the flames of rage within his heart and sit back down. But the gaze he shot at Duan Ling Tian still contained traces of frightful cold lights mixed within. Such a monstrous genius disciple had actually appeared in the Seven-Star Sword sect. 4th level nascent soul stage at the age of only 22. Such natural talent was simply more monstrous than the most outstanding of the 5 great young masters in the current younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Even if it was the leader of the 5 great young masters, the one called the person with the most monstrous natural talent in the martial Dao in the last 100 years of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, it was still far from being able to compare to this 7-star sword sect disciple. As he gazed at this 7-star sword sect disciple, he was envious and jealous in his heart. Why isn't my Mountain Split sect able to accept such a monstrous disciple? Now, what do you think? Duan Ling Tian looked down at the Mountain Split sect disciple that knelt before him, and his gaze was terrifyingly calm. You're kneeling on the floor, kneeling before me. Do you still think I'm not worthy of the name Duan Ling Tian? Do you still think you have the qualifications to change my name? Do you still think you have the qualifications to change my name? What Duan Ling Tian said entered into the ears of everyone present, and it caused them to sigh with emotion. Obviously, Duan Ling Tian's rage was precisely from the words the Mountain Split sect disciple spoke. The Mountain Split sect disciple was already trying his best to endure the pain of having his bones fractured, and he gritted his teeth tightly as his body trembled. Now, he recalled his previous actions when he heard Duan Ling Tian, and shame arose within his heart. For a time, he felt his vital qi and blood surge up to a point it was difficult to restrain. Pooh! In the end, the Mountain Split sect disciple's chest rose and fell for a while like a bellow. Then his face flushed red as he spat out a mouthful of blood, and it caused him to fall on the ground and pass out. Duan Ling Tian frowned, as he never expected the Mountain Split sect disciple to be so useless. Then he returned to the pergola. Although returning to the pergola was only a few steps away, Duan Ling Tian was able to feel numerous gazes that were like rain as they all descended onto him during this short few steps. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian, I really never imagined that you've already broken through to the 4th level of the nascent soul stage. You've already caught up to me. Zheng Song led Duan Ling Tian to sit by his side and laughed in excitement. But deep within his eyes, a slight dimness was mixed within. He was 7 years older than Duan Ling Tian, yet his cultivation was only on par with Duan Ling Tian, and this caused him to feel embarrassment that came from the heart. However, in next to no time, he came to an understanding. This junior brother Duan Tian of his was an utterly abnormal person. If anyone were to compare themselves to him, it would simply be looking for trouble. Huang Ji's expression was as unsightly could be. Earlier, he'd insistently pushed and mocked Duan Tian to make Duan Tian battle the Mountain Split sect disciple, precisely for the sake of allowing that Mountain Split sect disciple to teach Duan Tian a lesson. Duan Tian has actually broken through to the 4th level of the nascent soul stage. However, never had Huang Ji imagined that Duan Tian, who was only at the 2nd level of the nascent soul stage in his opinion, would actually have concealed his cultivation so deeply, and Duan Tian's cultivation had already stepped into the 4th level of the nascent soul stage. Meng Xiao, who sat by Huang Ji's side, had an expression that flickered between one that was livid and ashen. He knew that from today onwards, he could be considered to have completely joined the side of Duan Tian's opposition. At this moment, his heart was filled with regret. Huang Ji mocking Duan Tian was Huang Ji's own problem. Why did he have to join in? If it wasn't for this, it wouldn't have come to the extent that he became the opposition of Duan Tian. At this moment, Duan Tian, who'd returned into the pergola, had become the center of attention as expected. 22-year-old 4th level nascent soul stage martial artist. Besides the 3 higher-up from the 7-star sword sect, the higher-ups from the other 4 great sects looked at Duan Tian with extremely complicated gazes. In the past, the lack of strength of the 7-star sword sect's younger generation was something they'd noticed, and they originally thought the 7-star sword sect would sink into decline like this. But who knew that such a monster had actually appeared in the 7-star sword sect? This 7-star sword sect disciple is only 22 years old and has already stepped into the 4th level of the nascent soul stage. He's simply abnormal. Such natural talent surpasses every one of the 5 great young masters of our Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Exactly. Even that person who's the leader of the 5 great young masters was still far inferior to the 7-star sword sect disciple in terms of natural talent. Duan Tian. He is like his name, possessing the potential to soar above the heavens. That Mountain Split sect disciple wasn't able to notice this and provoked him. Not only were both his legs fractured, he was even angered to the point of fainting. The disciples of the various sects recovered from their shock and were all astounded. The scene before their eyes had completely exceeded their expectations. If they didn't see it with their own 2 eyes, they wouldn't dare believe that a martial artist with such monstrous natural talent had appeared. In the history of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, there seems to have never been an existence who had stepped into the 4th level of the nascent soul stage at the mere age of 22. The Snow Moon sect's Lu Yu sighed. She felt her own natural talent was extremely high and was only inferior to the 5 great young masters in the entire Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. In the past, she was only wholeheartedly convinced of the 5 great young masters. But today, when she saw the strength this 7-star sword sect disciple displayed with her own 2 eyes, only now did she realize that it turned out that the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom still contained an existence that possessed a natural talent that surpassed the 5 great young masters hidden within. Such a monstrous disciple has actually appeared in the 7-star sword sect. Burning flames jumped about in the eyes of Saber young master, Long Yun, as he sized up Duan Tian with interest, and he wished for nothing more than to charge over and spar with Duan Tian. Duan Tian, right? I, Long Yun, have committed you to memory. Presently, it wasn't just Long Yun who'd remembered the name Duan Tian. Perhaps everyone present wouldn't be able to forget this name in their entire lifetime. 4th level of the nascent soul stage at the age of 22. Such accomplishments determined this person was extraordinary. Duan Tian remained unmoved as he sat in the pergola and faced the numerous gazes that swept over, and he had a carefree expression. Such composure caused many people present to praise secretly. Not only is the natural talent of this Duan Tian high, his disposition is extremely firm as well. Neither humble nor arrogant, truly difficult to come by. Sect leader Linghu, such a monstrous disciple appearing in your sect is truly a cause for congratulations. As the host, the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader was the first to recover from his shock, and he congratulated Linghu Jinhong. The words of the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader was like a wick that lit a fire, lighting ablaze the atmosphere at the scene. The sect leaders of the other three great sects all congratulated Linghu Jinhong as well. Congratulations, sect leader Linghu. The Seven-Star Sword sect has a qualified successor. Everyone is too kind. Linghu Jinhong lightly smiled as he nodded in an extremely well-mannered and appropriate fashion. The two peak masters Zheng Fan and Ke Zhan felt extremely honored as they stood by Linghu Jinhong's side. It wasn't the first time they'd followed the sect leader to watch the martial competition, but it was still the first time they were able to hold their heads up high. For a time, their gazes descended onto Duan Ling Tian in unison as if they'd pre-discussed it earlier, and brilliant smiles hung on both their faces. They knew clearly in their hearts that everything they were able to enjoy now was all thanks to Duan Ling Tian. Of course, the expressions of some people were unsightly. Huang Ji, who sat in the same pergola as Duan Ling Tian, clenched his fist tightly, and his eyes revealed boundless resentment. As far as he was concerned, Duan Ling Tian seized away what should have been his. Presently, Duan Ling Tian was even likely to become the future sect leader of the Seven-Star Sword sect. He was unwilling to accept this. He was the personal disciple of the Seven-Star Sword sect's leader, the existence that would become the next sect leader of the Seven-Star Sword sect. No one can take away my place as sect leader. Duan Ling Tian, you're no exception. Huang Ji's gloomy gaze shot at Duan Ling Tian, and it seemed waiting to swallow Duan Ling Tian at any moment. The martial competition of the five great sects will continue. When he saw the fainted mountain split sect disciple being carried away by his companions to the pergola, the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader and the host of the competition abruptly spoke. Although his voice wasn't loud, it entered into the ears of everyone present. Besides the usual prizes for the first three in the martial competition, as always, I will personally give out a profound nascent pill as the prize for the first in the martial competition. Profound nascent pill. The demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader had only just finished speaking when waves of gasping sounded out within the martial competition courtyard. As expected, a profound nascent pill was a grade 6 medicinal pill. Although the profound nascent pill was only a grade 6 medicinal pill, practically no grade 6 alchemist was able to refine it. At least, in the history of Cloud Continent, a grade 6 alchemist refining a profound nascent pill was unheard of. Even if a grade 5 alchemist were to refine it, the percentage of successfully refining this profound nascent pill was pitifully low, not even 1%. Thus, the value of the profound nascent pill could be easily imagined. Of course, the reason the profound nascent pill was valuable wasn't only because of this. The most valuable aspect of the profound nascent pill was its medicinal strength. Supposedly, in the next half a year after consumption, the person who consumed it would experience an extremely great increase in their natural talent. During the period the medicinal strength remained, the person's cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. Cultivating half a year could compare to cultivating for a year at ordinary times. Profound nascent pill. At this moment, besides Duan Ling Tian still possessing a calm expression as if he completely didn't hear the sect leader of the demonic Lotus Blade sect, all the disciples of the five great sects, including the Saber Young Master, Long Yu, had eyes that lit up. A single profound nascent pill was sufficient to allow his cultivation to yield twice the result, half the effort. After consuming the profound nascent pill, cultivating for a half a year would be like cultivating for a year in the past. The profound nascent pill was an extremely great temptation to him. Profound nascent pill. Duan Ling Tian had a calm expression and flowing lights revolved in his eyes. If I didn't consume the 10,000-year stalactite milk, this profound nascent pill would perhaps be of use to me. Now, even if you give me 100 profound nascent pills, it would be of no use in the slightest. Only because my current natural talent is already at the extreme of the martial artists in the Cloud Continent. As a person who'd fused with the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian naturally knew what the profound nascent pill was. The profound nascent pill was a type of grade 6 medicinal pill that was extremely far apart in terms of expense and return. It was impossible for a grade 6 alchemist to successfully refine it. Even if a grade 5 alchemist were to refine it, the percentage of success wouldn't exceed 1%. Even if it was the Rebirth Martial Emperor after he'd become a royal grade alchemist, he was only barely able to refine the profound nascent pill with a 100% success rate. The refinement of a profound nascent pill was related to the level of pill fire. The higher level the pill fire, the higher the rate to successfully refine a profound nascent pill. Through the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian found out that those high-grade alchemists wouldn't waste huge amounts of time, energy, and materials to refine this medicinal pill that was known as the medicinal pill with the lowest success rate in Cloud Continent. Only because refining a profound nascent pill was absolutely arduous, but fruitless. The materials to refine a profound nascent pill required 100,000 gold. 100 times would be 10 million gold. Even if a grade 5 alchemist were to refine it and used up the materials worth 10 million gold, the alchemist still might not be able to refine a profound nascent pill successfully. Duan Ling Tian knew clearly in his heart that the success rate of the profound nascent pill was low to the point it had reached an astounding level. During the second lifetime of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, he'd once seen an obstinate grade 5 alchemist that went mad for the sake of refining a profound nascent pill. Not because of anything else, but only because that grade 5 alchemist had spent 100 million gold worth of materials and was still unable to refine even one profound nascent pill. In terms of cost, the profound nascent pill was a medicinal pill that had a difference between cost and return like the difference between the heaven and the earth. At least, Duan Ling Tian wasn't interested in the slightest towards refining a profound nascent pill. Perhaps, only those alchemists who really don't lack money and possess sufficient patience would refine the profound nascent pill. The medicinal strength of the profound nascent pill is indeed shocking, but the person that consumes it wouldn't think anything of it. But refining it was a type of torture and torment to an alchemist. Duan Ling Tian knew this very well. Of course, there's also an exception. There are perhaps an extremely few grade 5 alchemists that struck great luck and were able to refine it the first time. Right at the moment this thought arose in Duan Ling Tian's heart. The profound nascent pill in my hand was accidentally refined by a grade 5 alchemist that's a good friend of mine, and he only spent a single portion of materials. The words of the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. There really is an alchemist who struck great luck? Duan Ling Tian was stunned. After all, although the success rate of a grade 5 alchemist was fixed at 1%, if the alchemist struck great luck, then a grade 5 alchemist still have the chance to refine a profound nascent pill successfully in one try. In the case that the alchemist was unfortunate, then even if the alchemist refined it 1,000 times, he might not be able to refine a single profound nascent pill. The friend of the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader undoubtedly belonged to the former category. Struck great luck. So that's how it is. I was wondering why someone would refine a profound nascent pill. Sect Leader Long, the luck of that friend of yours is really heaven-defying. Sect Leader Long, you took out this profound nascent pill and made it the prize of the first in the martial competition because you're probably intending to bestow it to the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, your foster son, Long Yun, right? Besides Linghu Jin Hong, the sect leaders of the other sects looked at the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader and spoke out successively. The demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader lightly smiled, then looked at the sect leader of the Snow Moon sect that spoke the last. Sect leader Shui, why do you boost the morale of my foster son and belittle your own personal disciple, Lu Yu? Lu Yu and my foster son are both 6th level nascent soul stage martial artists, and Lu Yu similarly has the opportunity to obtain the first in the martial competition as well. When the Snow Moon sect's sect leader heard the sect leader of the demonic Lotus Blade sect, he only smiled lightly, but didn't say anything. He knew his own limitations. Although the strength of his personal disciple, Lu Yu, wasn't bad, she was still quite a distance away when compared with demonic Lotus Blade sect's master's foster son, Long Yun. I was wondering why the sect leader of the demonic Lotus Blade sect was so kind, actually willing to take out a profound nascent pill to be the prize for the first in the martial competition. So it turned out that he'd only bestowing it to his foster son, the saber young master Long Yun, in a disguised form. Zheng Song, who sat by Duan Ling Tian's side, frowned and snorted in a low voice. Presently, it wasn't only Zheng Song who thought in this way. Most people present possessed similar thoughts. How valuable was the profound nascent pill? Duan Ling Tian didn't care about it, but it didn't mean that the others didn't as well. Duan Ling Tian possessed a natural talent in the martial Dao that could be said to be at the extreme of a martial artist in Cloud Continent. Yet others didn't possess this. To them, if they were able to acquire the profound nascent pill, then they could save half a year of time in their cultivation in the future. Even though it was only half a year, that was sufficient to close the gap between a great deal of people of the same generation and become distinguished amongst their peers. What? Senior brother Zheng Song, you're interested in that profound nascent pill? Duan Ling Tian smiled as he asked. Of course I'm interested. Zheng Song hurriedly nodded, and his eyes revealed a burning sheen. That profound nascent pill is able to help a martial artist advance their cultivation swiftly. If I consumed that profound nascent pill, I might only need half a year to break through to the 5th level of the nascent soul stage successfully. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and a bright light that was indistinct appeared in his eyes. This was something that Zheng Song didn't notice. However, even if he noticed it, he wouldn't be able to perceive Duan Ling Tian's thoughts and intentions. In next to no time, the host, the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader, announced the continuation of the martial competition. Instantly, the disciples of the various sects entered the even ground and challenged the disciples of the other sects by name. The spars were held, one by one, and were like a raging fire. Swoosh! Within the pergola that Duan Ling Tian was in, Huang Ji's figure flashed out to battle a 5th-level nascent soul stage disciple of the Origin Convergence sect. The battle between the two was extremely intense. In terms of speed, both of them were on par. In terms of strength, there was hardly any difference between the two. In the end, it was still Huang Ji who relied on another superb sword skill that condensed 7 sword lights that seemed to have transformed into 7 meteors, and they whistled as they descended with a speed like bolts of lightning, defeating his opponent in one go. Extremely efficiently. This Huang Ji has cultivated 2 sword skills. Duan Ling Tian was slightly surprised, as the 2 sword skills of Huang Ji were obviously already cultivated to the perfection stage. Especially the sword skill he utilized in the end to defeat his opponent, it was even capable of being called superb. Based on Duan Ling Tian's evaluation, if his sword-drawing arts were to encounter this sword skill, it might not be able to gain the advantage in terms of speed. This sword skill completely crushes more than 90% of high-grade profound rank sword skills. Duan Ling Tian glanced deeply at Huang Ji. This Huang Ji had an extremely petty character, but needless to say, he still had some ability. At least, he hadn't seen anyone that had battled until now that was stronger than Huang Ji. 7-star sword technique. Right at this moment, waves of surprised exclaims entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. 7-star sword technique. Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted when he heard these exclamations of surprise. He's heard of this sword skill before. It was the sect guarding sword skill. Of course, it was impossible that the 7-star sword sect only possessed one high-grade profound rank sword skill as its sect guarding sword skill. The 7-star sword sect's guarding sword skill was a high-grade earth rank sword skill. I heard a long time ago that the 7-star sword sect's guarding sword skill, the 7-star sword technique, is the one and only high-grade earth rank sword skill in the 7-star sword sect. Moreover, this 7-star sword technique has a basic section that's called the minor 7-star sword technique. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. The sword skill this Huang Ji cultivated ought to be the minor 7-star sword technique. The minor 7-star sword technique was from the 7-star sword sect's sect guarding sword skill, the 7-star sword technique, and it was naturally extraordinary. Supposedly, once a person who cultivated the minor 7-star sword technique to the perfection stage broke through to the void prying stage, the person would be able to comprehend elementary sword force in an extremely short amount of time. At that time, the high-grade earth rank sword skill, the 7-star sword technique, would step into the initial stage as well. Sect leader Linghu. This minor 7-star sword technique is the basic section of your 7-star sword sect's guarding sword skill, the 7-star sword technique. According to my knowledge, the 7-star sword sect has a rule that the 7-star sword technique can only be passed down to the person that inherits the place of sect leader. Isn't this so? The demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader looked at Linghu Jinhong and lightly smiled as he asked. Exactly. Linghu Jinhong nodded. He felt rather happy in his heart when he saw his personal disciple bringing honor to the 7-star sword sect. In this way, sect leader Linghu intends to let your disciple inherit your position and become the next sect leader of the 7-star sword sect. The Origin Convergence sect's leader looked at Linghu Jinhong as he smiled spuriously. Meanwhile, Huangji revealed a slightly complacent expression when he heard the sect leader of the Origin Convergence sect. Right, Master passed down the minor 7-star sword technique to me. It's undoubtedly because he wants to pass down the sect guarding sword skill, the 7-star sword technique, to me. After all, the minor 7-star sword technique he cultivated was the basic section of the 7-star sword technique. For a time, Huangji looked at Duan Ling Tian with a complacent expression, as if he was saying to Duan Ling Tian, "Kid, look clearly. I'm the future sect leader of the 7-star sword sect." But he quickly noticed that from the beginning until the end, Duan Ling Tian only glanced indifferently at him and didn't have the interest to glance at him again. This caused Huang Ji's expression to become even gloomier. This Duan Ling Tian, damn it. Right at this moment, the sect leader of the Origin Convergence sect laughed heartily, then said, "Sect leader Linghu, looks like you don't plan to pass the place of sect leader of the 7-star sword sect to Duan Ling Tian. With Duan Ling Tian's natural talent, could it be that he still doesn't have the qualifications to become the next sect leader of your 7-star sword sect?" Sect leader Linghu, originally as an outsider, it isn't right for me to interfere in the matters of your 7-star sword sect. But now, you're really too unfair. As far as I'm concerned, with Duan Ling Tian's natural talent, it wouldn't even take a year for him to surpass your personal disciple. When the Snow Moon sect's sect leader spoke up to hear, he withdrew his gaze from Linghu Jinhong and shot it at Duan Ling Tian. If Duan Ling Tian was a disciple of my Snow Moon sect, then I'd be willing to immediately set him as the next inheritor of the position as the sect leader of Snow Moon sect, teach him the Snow Moon sect's guarding sword skill, Snow Moon sword technique, and spare no efforts in fostering him. The words of the Snow Moon sect's sect leader were like a wick that lit a flame, lighting the scene's atmosphere ablaze. Duan Ling Tian, in the future, if you feel it's not worth staying in the 7-star sword sect, my Origin Convergence sect would welcome you as well. I'm similarly willing to set you as the next inheritor of the position of sect leader. Moreover, I'll teach you my Origin Convergence sect's guarding martial skill, Origin Convergence Palm. The Origin Convergence sect's leader was unwilling to be left behind, and he looked at Duan Ling Tian as he tossed out an olive branch. Duan Ling Tian, our Mountain Split sect is the same as well. Will absolutely not allow you to suffer a loss. The Mountain Split sect's leader made a promise as well. The promise of the Mountain Split sect's leader just happened to be heard by the Mountain Split sect disciple that has just awoken after being angered by Duan Ling Tian to the point he fainted. Instantly, the Mountain Split sect disciple's face went ghastly pale, then he spit out a mouthful of blood and fainted once again, causing the other 3 Mountain Split sect disciples to be speechless. Huh. The sect leader of the demonic Lotus Blade sect laughed heartily. Since the 3 sect leaders have stated their stance, then I as the host must state my stance as well. As he spoke, the demonic Lotus Blade sect's sect master looked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian, if you're willing to join my demonic Lotus Blade sect, I can provide you the best cultivation environment. Not only that, you can regularly spar with my foster son, Long Yun, and increase your strength. I can promise you that so long as you can surpass my foster son, Long Yun, then I'll let you become the next sect leader of the demonic Lotus Blade sect. The 4 great sects tried to poach Duan Ling Tian in unison, desiring to lure the peerless genius, Duan Ling Tian, into their own sections. This scene caused the disciples of the various great sects to be astounded. At the 7-star sword sect's pergola, junior brother Duan Ling Tian, Zhengsong looked at Duan Ling Tian with a Huang Ji's expression was extremely unsightly. He suddenly felt that he was like a clown before Duan Ling Tian now. Especially that Snow Moon sect leader who trampled on his dignity and flattered Duan Ling Tian. It angered him to the point his chest seemed like it would explode. Duan Ling Tian. At this moment, Huang Ji's hate was practically at a point it was difficult to restrain. Meng Qiu had a bitter smile on his face. He'd realized that the biggest mistaken decision he's done in this lifetime was to become enemies with Duan Ling Tian and move to be the opposition of Duan Ling Tian. He took a deep breath, and he'd already come to a decision in his heart. If Duan Ling Tian didn't turn to the other four great sects, then after the martial competition this time, he would surely look for Duan Ling Tian and offer a humble apology and make Duan Ling Tian forgive his past actions. The two peak masters of the seven-star sword sect that were present, Zhang Fan and Ku Zhen, both had unsightly expressions. These four great sects are really shameless. They actually tried to poach our seven-star sword sect's disciple in front of us and the sect leader. Did they really think that we're non-existent? Finally, the sect leader of the seven-star sword sect, Linghu Jinhong, stated his stance. For sect leaders, since all of you know that the seven-star sword technique is the sect-guarding sword skill of my seven-star sword sect and is only passed on to the next sect leader, then all of you ought to know that the minor seven-star sword technique doesn't represent the seven-star sword technique. As for the position of sect leader of the seven-star sword sect, I already have a plan in my heart. So long as Duan Ling Tian is willing, I can relinquish my position to him right now and allow him to become the new sect leader of the seven-star sword sect. I'm willing to stand behind him and support him, Linghu Jinhong said slowly. His words were spoken with incomparable sincerity and without the slightest falsehood. As for the seven-star sword technique, after this martial competition ends and we return to the seven-star sword sect, I will naturally pass it down to him. Linghu Jinhong looked at Duan Ling Tian as he continued. Linghu Jinhong's stand caused the sect leaders of the other four great sects to be stunned. They never expected that Linghu Jinhong would actually possess such great resolution. He was actually willing to directly relinquish his position to Duan Ling Tian, sect leader Linghu. In the past, even though my strength has always been inferior to yours, I never admired you. But today, your ability to make such a decision has caused me to admire you. The Mountain Split sect's leader had a solemn expression as he cupped his hands to Linghu Jinhong. Now, I finally understood why the seven-star sword sect stably suppresses our four great sects in the end. It's the seven-star sword sect's resolution. At least, we four are far from possessing such resolution as sect leader Linghu. The demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader shook his head and lightly sighed. The sect leaders of the Snow Moon sect and Origin Convergence sect nodded in deep agreement. They were convinced from the heart by Linghu Jinhong's resolution. They'd asked themselves, even if Duan Ling Tian was really willing to turn to their sects, they still wouldn't possess the resolution to directly relinquish their position to Duan Ling Tian like Linghu Jinhong. Swoosh. Within the martial competition courtyard, the disciples of the other four great sects recovered from their shock, and they were all astounded. They were shocked by Linghu Jinhong's resolution. As expected of the seven-star sword sect's sect leader. For the sake of the seven-star sword sect's future, he didn't fuss about his own personal gains or losses in the slightest. Yeah, with such a sect leader, why should the seven-star sword sect be worried about being unable to stay brilliant in the future? The words of the disciples of the other four great sects were filled with admiration towards Linghu Jinhong. Meng Qiu recovered from his shock and couldn't help but shudder. Sect leaders actually willing to relinquish his position and pass the position of the seven-star sword sect's leader to Duan Ling Tian? Meng Qiu took a deep breath, and he didn't hesitate any longer as he directly sent a voice transmission to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian, I hope you can forgive me for my actions towards you earlier. In the future, I absolutely won't go against you anymore. If you become the seven-star sword sect's leader, I'll surely support you with all my heart and soul. Meng Qiu, the Fecta Peak Master's personal disciple. With the natural talent Meng Qiu possessed, he would surely become the next Fecta Peak Master if nothing unexpected happened. The voice transmission of Meng Qiu was slightly unexpected to Duan Ling Tian. When he thought of how they didn't have a deep grudge between them and Meng Qiu was only adding fuel the flame earlier, he nodded to Meng Qiu with a calm expression. Meng Qiu heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. He knew that he'd escaped calamity. The body of Huang Ji, who'd just returned to the pergola, was slightly stiff. The words of his master, the sect leader of the Seven-Star Sword sect, Linghu Jin Hong, still reverberated inside his mind. 4 sect leaders, since all of you know that the 7-star sword technique is the sect guarding sword skill of my 7-star sword sect, and is only passed on to the next sect leader, then all of you ought to know that the minor 7-star sword technique doesn't represent the 7-star sword technique. As for the position of sect leader of the 7-star sword sect, I already have a plan in my heart. So long as Duanling Tian is willing, I can relinquish my position to him right now and allow him to become the new sect leader of the 7-star sword sect. I'm willing to stand behind him and support him. Huang Ji's expression was terrifyingly gloomy. No, I'm not resigned to this fate. Huang Ji sat at the side of the pergola with his head lowered, and his face became faintly vicious, while his eyes flickered with a sheen of ruthlessness and hatred out of envy. Want me to respect Duanling Tian as the sect leader? I rather die than be beneath him. Huang Ji endlessly roared in his heart. As for the person concerned, Duanling Tian, his mood was slightly surging from the words Linghu Jinhong spoke. Although he had no intention of becoming the 7-star sword sect's leader, the stance that Linghu Jinhong took still caused traces of warmth to arise from the depths of his heart. This was a type of belief, a belief that he could entrust everything to Duanling Tian. After this disturbance, the martial competition continued. The disciples of the various sects sparred with each other, one by one. Along with the sky turning a rosy color and night gradually arriving, the martial competition was slowly drawing to an end. Presently, amongst the disciples of the various sects present here, besides the Snow Moon sect's Lin Yu and the demonic Lotus Blade sect's Saber Young Master, Long Yun, without exception, almost everyone had sparred with someone. Only Lu Yu and Long Yun had not stepped into the even ground at the center of the martial competition courtyard, and no one challenged them. These 2 people were the 2 with the highest cultivation in the martial competition this time. They were both existences at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage. Amongst the other people, the strongest cultivation was only at the 5th level of the nascent soul stage, and it was far from being a match for them. Duanling Tian, a 5th-level origin core stage disciple from the Mountain Split sect named Duanling Tian, and issued a challenge. For a time, sounds of booing continuously rose and fell, causing the Mountain Split sect disciple to blush slightly, but he had no choice but to brace himself and do it. Only because this was the order his master, the sect leader of the Mountain Split sect, sent him via voice transmission. Challenging a 4th-level nascent soul stage martial artist with a cultivation at the 5th level of the nascent soul stage was indeed slightly bullying his opponent. Presently, amongst the people present, only the people from the 7-star sword sect emitted slight shines of hope from their eyes. When he was in the 7-star sword sect, Duanling Tian had repeatedly displayed his ability to defeat a stronger opponent, and he'd even used a cultivation at the 9th level of the origin core stage to kill a 1st-level nascent soul stage inner court disciple 1. Perhaps Duanling Tian might be able to defeat this Mountain Split sect disciple. Duanling Tian didn't refuse when challenged by the Mountain Split sect disciple, and his feet stomped on the ground before flashing onto the even ground. Then he stood confrontation with the Mountain Split sect disciple. Duanling Tian, watch out. The Mountain Split sect disciple didn't delay. He raised his hand, and a rod appeared within it. The rod was made from materials of unknown quality, and flowing lights revolved around the body of the rod. A while ago, Duanling Tian had seen this Mountain Split sect disciple fight, so he knew the rod in his opponent's hand was a Grade 7 spirit weapon. Relying on this Grade 7 spirit weapon rod, he'd successively defeated many 5th-level nascent soul stage martial artists, and had only lost at the hands of a 5th-level nascent soul stage demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple and their 7-star sword sect's Huang Ji. The strength of this Mountain Split sect disciple could be considered as the strongest amongst the 4 Mountain Split sect disciples that participated in the 5 great sects martial competition this time. Every time the grade 7 spirit rod in his hand swung out, it would seem as if it could anticipate the movements of the enemy, causing others to be unable to defend against it. Whoosh! Suddenly, the mountain split sect disciple moved. He stepped on the flowing light brought about by his origin energy as he flashed towards Duan Ling Tian. In the air, 700 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form before dashing out in tow with an imposing manner that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Whoosh! Origin energy skyrocketed on the grade 7 spirit rod in his hand, and he smashed it down at Duan Ling Tian with grand movements, and it seemed as if it brought along an enormous might that was sufficient to smash everything. In the sky, another 198 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared beside the original 700 ancient mammoth silhouettes. This rod strike that smashed down contained a strength that was comparably to the strength of 898 ancient mammoths. Instantly, even the airflow in the sky was affected, and it emitted buzzing sounds. The sound of air exploding rose and fell rhythmically, and continued without end. Bring it on! When he saw the mountain split sect disciple was so fierce to the point he directly went berserk at the moment he attacked, and smashed down his rod with a solid swing. Duan Ling Tian felt the hot blood in his body boil. Whoosh! With a raise of his hand, a narrow sword had appeared within his hand. Duan Ling Tian didn't dare be inattentive when facing an opponent at the 5th level of the nascent soul stage. He directly withdrew the best spirit sword in his possession. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian made his move. Whirlwind. Instantly, his entire body seemed to transform into a gale as he fearlessly moved to greet the rod strike. In the eyes of the spectators, it was like Duan Ling Tian was moving to go give away his life. While Duan Ling Tian dashed out, 600 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above him. 4th level of the nascent soul stage, which was also Duan Ling Tian's current strength. That day, under the assistance of the 3 void break pills, he'd only spent 2 months of time to break through to the 1st level of the nascent soul stage. After that, relying on his natural talent that had reached the limit, and the nascent nurturing pills with a purity of over 90%, he'd spend another 3 months to successfully step into the 3rd level of the nascent soul stage. Subsequently, he spent 4 months to successfully step into the 3rd level of the nascent soul stage. It was precisely at this time that he fell into a cultivation bottleneck, and he started moving his attention to the high-grade earth rank movement technique, Whirlwind, that was attached to the 4th form of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, the Wind WIRM form. Following that, he'd acquired the Jade Origin Fruit that the sect leader, Linghu Jin Hong, bestowed. Under the assistance of the Jade Origin Fruit, he'd finally broken through the bottleneck at the 3rd level of the nascent soul stage and broke through to the 4th level of the nascent soul stage in one go. Currently, when his strength completely exploded out, it was comparable to the strength of 611 ancient mammoths. In other words, he was still holding back when he fought now. He'd held back the strength of 11 ancient mammoths. It wasn't because he looked down on the mountain split sect disciple that he did this, but was instead because he felt there was entirely no need. Swoosh! Along with origin energy flashing out into the narrow sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand, immediately, another 228 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared out of thin air beside the existing 600 ancient mammoth silhouettes. In other words, currently, the strength Duan Ling Tian displayed while relying on the narrow sword was comparable to the strength of 828 ancient mammoths. Grade 6 Spirit Sword. At almost the exact instant that Duan Ling Tian utilized the narrow sword, all pupils of all the people present couldn't help but constrict. They never imagined that Duan Ling Tian, a mere 4th level nascent soul stage martial artist, would actually possess a grade 6 spirit sword. With a quick thought, they came to an understanding. With Duan Ling Tian's natural talent, it was sufficient for the 7-star sword sect to bestow a grade 6 spirit sword upon him. Now, only Linghu Jin Hong and the 2 peak masters beside him knew that the grade 6 spirit sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand wasn't bestowed by the 7-star sword sect. Under the gazes of everyone present, Duan Ling Tian didn't utilize his sword drawing arts. Instead, he gripped the spirit sword tightly in his hand, seeming more like he was swinging up a rod, and he fiercely smashed his sword towards the mountain split sect disciple's grade 7 spirit rod. This scene caused everyone present to be stupefied. Duan Ling Tian is actually not using a sword skill. Is he using grade 6 spirit sword in his hand as a rod and smashing it at his opponent? Instantly, only similar thoughts like this remained in the hearts of most people. They felt their scalps go numb as they gazed at the scene before them. Has Duan Ling Tian gone mad? Even if the narrow sword in his hand was a grade 6 spirit sword, his own cultivation was far inferior to the mountain split sect disciple. The strongest strength he was able to exert when relying on a grade 6 spirit sword was only comparably to the strength of 828 ancient mammoths. Whereas the strength that the grade 7 spirit rod in that mountain split sect disciple's hand smashed down with was comparably to the strength of 898 ancient mammoths. The difference was the strength of 70 ancient mammoths. At this moment, besides the members of the 7-star sword sect, the members of the other 4 great sects, including their sect leaders and elders, all felt that this battle was without a shred of suspense. The difference of the strength of 70 ancient mammoths were sufficient to make Duan Ling Tian suffer a crushing defeat. A difference of 70 ancient mammoths worth of strength. On the other hand, brilliant smiles bloomed on the faces of the members of the 7-star sword sect instead. According to their knowledge, 1 year ago, when Duan Ling Tian killed the first-level nascent soul stage inner court disciple, Lu Shirgu, on the Dubhe Peak's life and death arena, the full strength Lu Shirji's exerted was even stronger than Duan Ling Tian by over 90 ancient mammoths. But even then, Lu Shirgu was still killed by Duan Ling Tian. There's no suspense at all. Zheng Song's heart that was in his throat has eased up and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. That day, he was spectating from the side when Duan Ling Tian killed Lu Shirgu, and amongst the 7-star sword sect members present now, no one was clearer of the conditions on that day. Duan Ling Tian's ability to defeat a stronger opponent was even capable of surpassing a gap of over 90 ancient mammoths in strength. Could it be that he would be afraid of a mere difference of 70 ancient mammoths worth of strength? When he swung up the grade 6 spirit sword and fiercely smashed it down, Duan Ling Tian felt that there was a place to vent the roiling hot blood and battle intent in his body, and he spat out a mouthful of foul air as he abruptly shouted out explosively. Satisfying. Whem. The grade 6 spirit sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand directly used the body of the sword to fiercely smash towards the mountain split sect disciple's rod that was swung downwards. Swoosh. The grade 7 spirit rod of the mountain split sect disciple smashed down as if it carried a might of 15,000 kilograms. But when he who was originally filled with confidence saw Duan Ling Tian shout out explosively and moved to intercept him as if in a frenzy, he didn't know why, but a trace of coldness had actually arisen within his heart for no reason. Yet, he already had no choice now and could only face Duan Ling Tian's attack head-on. No problem, it's surely not a problem. My strength is 70 ancient mammoths stronger than him, and it's sufficient to easily crush him. The mountain split sect disciple ceaselessly consoled himself. However, when he saw Duan Ling Tian's gaze that was filled with confidence, his mind couldn't help but sway. Why does Duan Ling Tian possess such strong confidence? Could it be that he HSD confidence on defeating me in a head-on attack? The mountain split sect disciple was truly unwilling to believe this. No, impossible, it's impossible. He's surely bluffing, surely. At the critical moment, the thoughts of the mountain split sect disciple turned, and he continued to console himself. As he gazed at the grade 7 spirit rod in his hand, fiercely smashing down, about to collide with the grade 6 spirit sword, which Duan Ling Tian swung and smashed down at him. The mountain split sect disciple shouted explosively, wanting to use this to overcome the fear and uneasiness in his heart. At the same time, the strength of the mountain split sect disciple completely poured into the grade 7 spirit rod in his hand without reservation. Swoosh. The rod strike that seemed as if it had received help from God crashed downwards. Satisfying. Duan Ling Tian swung out his grade 6 spirit sword. His arm flashed, and was like a raging python swinging its tail as he smashed the spirit sword towards the descending rod. At the same time, quake energy. Instantly, the origin energy on Duan Ling Tian's spirit sword started to vibrate violently with a frequency that went higher and higher. Right before the spirit sword collided with the rod that the mountain split sect disciple fiercely smashed down, his quake energy had risen to the maximum limit. Maximum quake energy. Its scope of effect was the strength of 100 ancient mammoths. In other words, in a head-on battle, so long as the strength of the opponent Duan Ling Tian faced didn't exceed his own by the strength of 100 ancient mammoths, then quake energy would be able to bring about an effect that was like help from the gods. Furthermore, now, although the rod strike that the mountain split sect disciple smashed downwards was approaching menacingly, it was only the strength of 70 ancient mammoths stronger than Duan Ling Tian. It just happened to be within the quake energy's scope of effect. Swoosh. The rod strike smashed down by the mountain split sect disciple carried along the might to tear through the sky as it fiercely smashed down. Wham! Duan Ling Tian swung out the grade 6 spirit sword with grand movements, abandoning the edge of the sword as he smashed out with the sword's body to intercept the rod that was smashing down. The strength on the rod was comparable to the strength of 898 ancient mammoths. The strength on the sword was comparable to the strength of 828 ancient mammoths. The difference between the two was the strength of 70 ancient mammoths. Right at the instant when the sword and rod flashed out and were about to collide, time seemed as if it had stopped. Duan Ling Tian is about to lose. There's a difference of the strength of 70 ancient mammoths between them. The outcome is without suspense. Although Duan Ling Tian will suffer defeat, but it's still a glorious defeat. It's difficult to imagine that he's only a 22-year-old 7-star sword sect disciple. The crowd of members from the 4 great sects stared fixedly at the scene before them, and their thoughts spun. He's won. Linghu Jinhong and the 2 peak masters beside him revealed gratified smiles on their faces. Junior brother Duan Ling Tian, nice work. Zheng Song had an incomparably brilliant smile on his face. Meng Qiu's face revealed a smile as well. Duan Ling Tian, nice. Only Huang Ji looked at Duan Ling Tian with a gaze filled with viciousness and malevolence, and his face carried an unwilling expression. Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian. Why is the limelight always yours? Why? Clang. An ear-piercing sound of rod and sword collided resounded out within the entire martial competition courtyard. Although everyone present was mentally prepared, some disciples of the various sects that possessed comparatively lower cultivations couldn't help but go pale, and they felt their eardrums almost splitting apart from the ear-piercing sound. Whoosh! The instant the sword and rod collided, 2 strands of origin energy crashed in collision, causing sounds of air exploding to continuously rise and fall, and the roiling airflow in the sky formed circle after circle of ripples that spread out. Instantly, a gust of strong wind spread out from Duan Ling Tian and the mountain split sect disciple, sweeping out to the surroundings, blowing on the clothes of the spectators, causing them to flutter as well. But no one amongst the spectators cared about this, only because their gazes were all fixed on the 2 people who had just collided with each other. They wanted to know what the final outcome was. Let go. Suddenly, a stern and explosive shout entered into the ears of everyone present. Subsequently, most people noticed to their astonishment that along with the explosive shout of the 7-star sword sect's Duan Ling Tian, that mountain split sect disciple followed in the footsteps of the previous mountain split sect disciple that was defeated by Duan Ling Tian. His palm split open and fresh blood dripped down, and he directly tossed away the weapon in his hand. Clang! The grade 7 spirit rod crashed onto the ground and emitted an ear-piercing sound, shocking most people to the point their hearts palpitated in fear. They didn't know what had happened. Presently, it was probably the person concerned, the mountain split sect disciple, that knew exactly what happened. He originally thought his own strength was stronger than Duan Ling Tian by 70 ancient mammoths, so he would be able to easily dominate Duan Ling Tian and defeat Duan Ling Tian. But unexpectedly, right at the instant the spirit rod in his hand collided with Duan Ling Tian's spirit sword, He felt the origin energy on his spirit rod be shaken to dispersion by a type of vibrating energy that extended out from the sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand. It didn't end at that. The terrifying vibrating energy subsequently spread to his hand from the spirit rod, then spread to his entire body, including the bones and internal organs within him. When his origin energy was shaken to dispersion and the palm that held the rod split open, he'd realized that if he didn't let go, then it was extremely likely that he would be shaken to death. Furthermore, it was right at this moment that Duan Ling Tian let out an explosive shout, and it caused him to not dare hesitate and hurriedly toss away the grade 7 spirit rod. Now, he could understand the feelings of the other mountain split sect disciple that was defeated by Duan Ling Tian earlier. The vibrating energy that this Duan Ling Tian displayed was too bizarre, and it was impossible to guard against. Whem! The grade 6 spirit sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand trembled as he withdrew the quake energy. Then he slapped out with the body of the sword, descending onto the mountain split sect disciple that was just right before him. The mountain split sect disciple even didn't have the chance to circulate his origin energy that had been shaken to dispersion when he was slapped flying by Duan Ling Tian's sword strike, flying like an arrow leaving the bow, and he fiercely plunged to the ground with a bang. It was a good fight. The mountain split sect disciple didn't utter any rude remarks to Duan Ling Tian, so Duan Ling Tian didn't continue attacking and stopped suitably. You're extremely strong. I'm utterly convinced of your strength. The mountain split sect disciple stood up with difficulty, then nodded to Duan Ling Tian with a smile before picking up his spirit rod and returning to the pergola. Meanwhile, everyone present had recovered from their shock. Their gazes descended onto Duan Ling Tian once again. It was as if they'd seen a ghost. Duan Ling Tian actually won with a difference of 70 ancient mammoths worth of strength. Why do I feel like I'm dreaming? The side with the weaker strength was actually able to win in a head-on confrontation? It's simply like they were putting on a show, regardless of how the people present thought or how they doubted it. Duan Ling Tian had won. And in the end, he'd won in an open and above-board manner. Presently, only the members of the 7-Star Sword sect seemed to not feel surprised in the slightest. What is actually going on? The Mountain Split sect leader sent a voice transmission to ask the Mountain Split sect disciple that was defeated by Duan Ling Tian, or in other words, his personal disciple. Your strength was obviously stronger than Duan Ling Tian. In the end, why did you still lose? Why did your palm split open? Why did you toss away the spirit weapon in your hand? There were too many questions in the heart of the Mountain Split sect leader. The process of Duan Ling Tian defeating this personal disciple of his was no different from the process of Duan Ling Tian defeating the other Mountain Split sect disciple from before. If there really was a difference, then the strength of the first Mountain Split sect disciple had a strength that was similar to Duan Ling Tian, whereas his personal disciple instead was defeated by Duan Ling Tian under the circumstances that he possessed a strength that was sufficient to dominate Duan Ling Tian. He lost without any sign nor prerequisite. Everything was just so sudden. At this moment, the Mountain Split sect leader's mood was gloomy. He'd asked his personal disciple to challenge Duan Ling Tian, as his original intention was to teach Duan Ling Tian a lesson. After all, Duan Ling Tian had fractured the legs of his Mountain Split sect disciple. Although that little injury was able to be healed by a grade 7 gold injury pill, it still had caused the Mountain Split sect to lose face greatly. But who knew? Now, they hadn't regained the face that they'd lost, but they'd lost face once again. This caused him to be on the verge of exploding from rage. Master, Duan Ling Tian is too bizarre. When the Mountain Split sect disciple heard the voice transmission from his master, he had a bitter smile on his face. The instant that I collided with him head-on, an extremely strange energy abruptly surged out from his sword and shook my origin energy to dispersion. It didn't end there. That energy was even able to pull my body along to vibrate with it. At that time, I had a feeling that if I didn't let go in time, then the bones in my entire body might be shaken to dispersion. As he finished speaking, the Mountain Split sect disciple's tone contained slight fear. What? The expression of the sect leader of the Mountain Split sect went grim, and he had an expression of disbelief. Could it be that he used an inscription? It wasn't an inscription. The mountain split sect disciple shook his head. If it was an inscription, not to mention I would be able to discern it. Even Master and the other sect leaders or elders would have surely discerned it at the first possible moment. That strange energy of his isn't the power of an inscription. It seems to have surged out from his origin energy, and it's more like a type of origin energy utilization method. I truly never imagined that not only did this seven-star sword sect disciple possess monstrous talent, but he actually possessed such a terrifying origin energy utilization method. The mountain split sect leader's eyes flickered with a bright light as he said in a low voice. He's a person that can be a friend, but not an enemy. The mountain split sect disciple had an expression of fear. Presently, it wasn't only the mountain split sect pair of master and disciple that were inexplicably shocked. Even the members of the other three great sects were completely shocked, and they only recovered from their shock after a long time. Sect leader Linghu, a monster has really emerged from your seven-star sword sect. The host, the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader, looked at Linghu Jin Hong and sighed. I can understand now why you're willing to relinquish your position to him. Such a monstrous genius has never appeared throughout the entire history of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Exactly. Sect leader Linghu, your seven-star sword sect has really hit the jackpot. The Snow Moon sect's sect leader nodded in deep agreement. Sect leader Linghu, we've still underestimated your seven-star sword sect in the past. Now that I think about it, how could the circumstances of a shortage of new blood appear with the resources available to the seven-star sword sect? The Origin Convergence sect leader let out a long sigh. Linghu Jin Hong lightly smiled as he said modestly, Sect leaders, all of you are too kind. However, deep within the eyes of Linghu Jin Hong was a faint sense of complacence mixed within. He's even able to defeat a 5th-level nascent soul stage martial artist? The Snow Moon sect's Lu Yu stared blankly at Duan Ling Tian with an expression of disbelief. Earlier, when Duan Ling Tian and the Mountain Split sect disciple collided with each other, similar to most people, she thought Duan Ling Tian would undoubtedly lose as well. However, the outcome had exceeded her expectations. Duan Ling Tian used a strength weaker than the Mountain Split sect disciple to counterattack and defeated the Mountain Split sect disciple who possessed a stronger strength than him. What method did he actually use? The calm expression on the face of the demonic Lotus Blade sect's saber young master, Long Yun, had vanished completely, and replacing it was traces of fear. Before today, it was difficult for him to imagine that a 22-year-old young man was actually able to cause fear to arise in his heart. Of course, the fear that arose in his heart didn't represent that he was afraid of Duan Ling Tian. As far as he was concerned, although this Duan Ling Tian's abilities were bizarre, it ought to not be sufficient to threaten him. Moreover, he possessed a grade 6 spirit weapon as well. The rod strike the Mountain Split sect disciple smashed down contained a strength comparably to 898 ancient mammoths, whereas when fully exerted, my strength is comparable to the strength of 1,100 ancient mammoths. Unless he's able to cross a gap of almost 300 ancient mammoths, otherwise, it's impossible for him to be a match for me. The saber young master, Long Yun, thought in his heart. Whoosh. Within the pergola where the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples were seated, a figure flashed out and stood on the even ground. Huangji, it's our turn. As soon as this demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple appeared, he looked towards Huangji within the pergola that the seven-star sword sect disciples were seated in with a serious gaze, as if he was looking at his lifelong foe. Huangji's figure flashed out of the pergola and stood in confrontation opposite the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple. Duan Ling Tian gazed at the scene before him with a calm gaze. From the sparring battles from before, besides the saber young master, Long Yun, and Lu Yu, Huangji and this demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple ought to be the stronger two amongst all the disciples of the various sects present. Of course, that didn't include him. Suddenly, Huangji and the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple attacked at the exact same moment. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Huangji attacked. Sword images that swept through the entire sky carried along traces of a terrifying killing intent as it enveloped the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple. Whem, 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 whem. The demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple wasn't afraid in the slightest. The spirit saber in his hand flashed, and was able to just perfectly stop the sword in Huang Ji's hand every single time. The figures of the two endlessly crossed each other. Saber lights and sword images covered and swept through the sky, causing the others to be dazed from watching them. Unlike the 2 times Duan Ling Tian fought head-on and determined the victor with a single move, Huang Ji and the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples' battle was a close battle. For a time, they were roughly on par with each other and in a deadlock. Minor 7-star sword technique. In the end, Huang Ji eventually utilized his biggest trump card, which was precisely the 7-star sword sect's guarding sword skill, the 7-star sword technique's basic section, the minor 7-star sword technique. 7 sword lights that were like meteors flashed out. That demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple was directly defeated by Huang Ji. The 7-star sword sect, 7-star sword technique, really does deserve its reputation. The minor 7-star sword technique is only the basic section of the 7-star sword technique, yet its might is already so terrifying. It's difficult to imagine if the true 7-star sword technique were to be utilized, how terrifying its might would be. The demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple had a lingering fear in his heart, and as he finished speaking, he heaved a sigh of relief and deeply glanced at Huang Ji as he laughed. Huang Ji, it's truly shame. You'll probably have no destiny with the true 7-star sword technique. Ha ha ha. As he approached the end of what he wanted to say, he couldn't refrain from bursting into laughter. His gaze unnoticeably descended onto Duan Ling Tian, then deeply glanced at Duan Ling Tian before returning to the pergola that the other demonic Lotus Blade sect disciples were sitting in. Huang Ji's figure suddenly shook. The words of the demonic Lotus Blade sect disciple was like salt on his wounds, causing the hatred in his heart to rise to the limit. Duan Ling Tian. Huang Ji returned to the pergola, and a gloominess appeared in his eyes as he swept his gaze past Duan Ling Tian. After Duan Ling Tian returned a cold and indifferent glance to Huang Ji, he didn't bother to pay any more attention to Huang Ji. The conflict between Duan Ling Tian and Huang Ji was noticed by the sect leader of the demonic Lotus Blade sect, and he laughed loudly. Martial nephew Huang Ji's strength is great indeed. If Duan Ling Tian wasn't here today, then martial nephew Huang Ji would surely be the third in the martial competition this time. Exactly, with the ability Duan Ling Tian displayed when defeating sect leader Teng's personal disciple earlier, there's probably no 5th-level nascent soul stage martial artist present that is a match for Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian obtaining the third in the martial competition this time is in favor with the public's opinion. The Origin Convergence sect leader nodded in agreement, desiring to stir up trouble. Of course, if martial nephew Huang Ji is unconvinced of Duan Ling Tian's strength, then you can issue a challenge to Duan Ling Tian and compete for the 3rd rank. The Mountain Split sect leader joined in as well. There's no need. I'm inferior to him. Huang Ji's low and deep voice revealed traces of chilliness. When he saw Huang Ji state his stance, the frowned brows of Linghu Jinhong slightly eased up. He was really worried that Huang Ji would go challenge Duan Ling Tian. With Duan Ling Tian's current strength, this personal disciple of this would absolutely not be a match for Duan Ling Tian. Even if Huang Ji went and challenged Duan Ling Tian, he would only be bringing disgrace to himself and would also become the laughingstock of the other sects. The 7-star sword sect couldn't afford to suffer this humiliation. The stand Huang Ji took at the critical moment made him feel extremely satisfied. As far as he was concerned, regardless of if it was Huang Ji or Duan Ling Tian who took the 3rd in the martial competition, it would make no difference. After all, they were both 7-star sword sect disciples. No matter who seized the 3rd place, they would be bringing honor to the 7-star sword sect. Since martial nephew Huang Ji acknowledged that he's inferior to Duan Ling Tian, then the 3rd place of the martial competition this time is Duan Ling Tian. The demonic Lotus Blade sect leader spoke out in a timely manner. Huang Ji's figure lightly trembled and his expression was extremely gloomy. In his heart, he hated Duan Ling Tian to the extreme. Suddenly, Huang Ji heard a voice transmission and he shuddered before raising his head to look into the distance. That place was the location of the Origin Convergence sect's leader. Huang Ji frowned, and his expression was sinister. He struggled for a while before nodding to the Origin Convergence sect's leader in the end, and the gloominess on his face dispersed to quite a bit. Duan Ling Tian, one day, I'll trample on you beneath my feet. Huang Ji looked at Duan Ling Tian, and his eyes revealed traces of a ruthless shine. Third, when he heard the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader, Duan Ling Tian's brows raised, and he said indifferently, "Sect leader Long, isn't it slightly hasty that you fixed me as the third of the martial competition this time?" Duan Ling Tian's voice wasn't loud, yet it still clearly entered into the ears of everyone present, like a thunderclap piercing their ears. What does Duan Ling Tian mean by this? Could it be that he still wants to challenge the Snow Moon sect's Lu Yu and the demonic Lotus Blade sect's Saber Young Master, Long Yun? Does Duan Ling Tian really think just because he defeated a 5th-level nascent soul stage martial artist by relying on a grade 6 spirit sword, he's able to challenge a 6th-level nascent soul stage martial artist? If it's really like this, then he's really too arrogant. Young and arrogant. The disciples of the various sects discussed animatedly. The demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader's tiger-shaped brows raised when he heard what he said being questioned by Duan Ling Tian, and glanced at Duan Ling Tian indifferently. What? Could it be that you still want to battle the personal disciple of sect leader Shui, Lu Yu, and compete for the second in the martial competition? Sect leader Shui was precisely the sect leader of the Snow Moon sect. Presently, the words of the demonic Lotus Blade sect's leader had obviously taken his foster son, the Saber Young Master Long Yun, to be the first in the martial competition. Perhaps, in his heart, he didn't think that Duan Ling Tian had the courage to challenge Long Yun. No, Duan Ling Tian shook his head. Second place in the martial competition? He wasn't interested. In his opinion, there was no difference between second and third.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.